I been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is, I know there are people diagnosed with it. I just think it's a umbrella diagnosis. I think a lot of people fall under it, and I've never met anybody that has the exact same symptoms as I do. Almost all of my symptoms are neurologic. I have numbness in all 4 of my limbs. My hands went numb first, and then my feet, and it's gradually just moved up. It was terrifying. It still is every day. I wonder one morning if I'm going to wake up and be completely paralyzed. I wonder when it'll start moving into my trunk or take over my heart. It's very terrifying. Nobody can figure out. I mean, we've done millions of tests. I've lived through the spinal tap, the nerve conduction studies, the EEGs, all this other mess, and nobody's come up with anything. That perhaps is the most frustrating part. You know it's bad when your neurologist sits down with you and goes, I don't know how to help you. I don't know what's wrong. I'm young. I'm not even 21 yet. My birthday's in August. Everybody looks at you when you go in the doctor's office. They go, oh, you're so young. You're not, you're too young to be sick. Children with cancer are too young to be sick. Think about that every day. I can't imagine having cancer. I can't imagine, hearing that, and living with it. So I'm in the same boat as you. How do you make a living? How do you survive? How do you go on day to day? And I don't have an answer for that. I was in technical theater, so I was going to be a carpenter, a welder. I mean, everything I did was involving my hands, and they started going numb, and then I started having seizures, and I had a seizure on our catwalk, and it was just, I was going to be a liability to any company that I wanted to work at. I really had a lot of time to swing in and out of the depression, guilt cycle, trying to figure out what's wrong, and it just comes in waves. The process of dealing with it. There are days when I feel great, emotionally, and there are days when I feel terrible, depressed, and guilty. It just comes in cycles, and that's how this illness is. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's just, it doesn't get any easier. And so when I watched your video, I was just, it's hard to look at the rest of my life and be hopeful. To know that someday there's going to be a cure or an answer or anything, a treatment. To look down at that and not know is hard. To not know that I'm not going to get to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do in life, just because it would be so painful. It would be, right now, those things look scary, and I can't imagine 2 or 3 years down the road where I'm going to be physically, and how bad it's going to hurt to just get out of bed every day. And it's such a double-edged sword. You lay in bed all day, you're going to hurt like hell because you laid in the damn bed, and you get up and you get out, and you're going to hurt just as bad because you walked, in the drugstore and drove home in the car. It is little things, and how do you survive, and it's scary how dependent I've become on people, how dependent I've become, and how it's changed my relationships with people. I don't know. I just wanted to tell you that I'm there with you every day. I understand, and it sucks to have to say that, because it sucks to know that somebody's in as much pain as me, if more. It's terrible to hear that, because nobody should have to go through this. Nobody else. Fine, I have to go through it. but to be so misunderstood by people, the community. You know, you say you have a chronic illness. Oh, you sleep all day. Yeah, you have that chronic fatigue syndrome. That is the worst name for a diagnosis. They might as well call us the lazy people. I mean, and there's so many chronic illnesses, and so many are known. I mean, there's cancer, there's asthma, there's diabetes. I mean, no, there's not enough information out about those. There's not, but I say fibromyalgia to somebody, and people are like, what is that? What does that mean? How do you explain that standing there talking to you at a social event is going to put me in bed for 2 days? You don't. You just pretend. I always swore that I'd never be an actor, but sometimes it's scary how good I am. There are people who don't even know I'm sick. Perhaps because I don't want them to know. There are people who don't know how sick I am. There are people who have absolutely no understanding because I haven't given it to them. And so I understand why for so long you didn't say what you did for a living, because there's so much vulnerability in coming out and saying that you have a chronic illness. So I just wanted to thank you for making your video. It was inspiring. I had to make this. I couldn't. It took forever, but I did, and I can only wish the best for you in this. I know that it's terrible, and I know that it feels empty and hopeless. But there are a lot of us. There are a whole lot of us. And I hope that in time or at some point, somebody's going to listen. Somebody's going to hear. Somebody's going to see. People are going to start doing, and then maybe something will happen. That's the way these things start. So, the best to you, and anybody else who's watching who has a chronic illness, or is sick with something, anything, the best to you.